All right. Hi, everybody. So, welcome back to Water Cooler Wednesday. I'm excited to kick off February. This month, we're going to kind of focus on people, the people within, the people that you're possibly hiring, how we can make their day and some maybe even their engagement with you in your business better. So with that, my name is Kayla Rowe. I am the client account consultant here for Opus Management. I am the one that I handle our Water Cooler Wednesdays, a lot of the product demos that we do, and some product management. So if you find that we bring you some value today, we would love for you guys to follow us on all of our social media. We're on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and of course you can find us on LinkedIn. You can find me as well. If you check out our website, opusmanagement.us, you can find links to schedule some time to talk about your business or to find out a little bit more information. We love to set up some time with everybody, well, really anybody that wants to talk and see how we can help your business grow. So we want to make technology your friend and help you move into your goals and into that next level with your company. So today, I'm going to talk about people and kind of that interviewing and hiring process that everybody goes through. So all turnover in a company is bad. It can be bad. Whether it's the wrong person and the wrong fit because we just hired the wrong person, hired, a warm body, or, the fact that we lost a really good person. Because maybe their onboarding experience was not so great. I know I've been through that. Expectations weren't set for me to be set up to go forward and really grow and blossom with the last company that I was with. So when you think about starting off and hiring, and when we look at ourselves, when we look at the position and the hole maybe that we need to fill in our company, somebody to take something on, we really need to take the time before we just post a job to dig into what is it that we need? What is our team missing? What is, what's the company missing as a whole? Really think about the culture and what we're doing within our day-to-day and where we kind of need that piece filled in. And as, with that in the forefront of our mind, really setting up ourselves with the interviews to win and to find the right person. And remember, the right person may not come with the exact experience you think you need. So your time in that interview is to find the right person and to really figure out what you're looking for, if they fit and bring things to the table that maybe you need that you didn't realize. So asking questions that dig into the candidate themselves will really help you source out what you're looking for. So going into this with a plan, I think a lot of times, and I know that I have been guilty of it in my previous life, is, I realized we were shorthanded and we're just going to hire somebody. I was of the thought that, I really could train somebody to do the position that I was in. But they weren't always the right fit for the culture. So finding out somebody's work ethic, are they someone that is always on time? Are they someone that feels like, if I show up at 11 o'clock for an 11 o'clock shift, I'm late? That was always a struggle when I was working in the veterinary industry, people not coming in and being ready to go, at the time that we started taking appointments. So if your shift started at 9 o'clock, a lot of people felt like, oh, well, I get in at 9, and then they have a 10 or 15 minute routine that morning in order to get themselves ready to go. I'm a sit in quiet and drink my coffee in the morning. So I know in order to start my day that I want to be sitting at my desk at 6:30. That way I've got 30 minutes to kind of sit and, collect myself, have my priorities listed out, because I have lots of little post-it notes hanging out on my desk that I write out, what are my priorities for the day? What are the things that I need to get done so that I can feel good and pull it off? So sourcing out things like that in the interview, asking those open-ended questions of the candidate so that they can give you that information. And, then once they start to talk to you about, what does it look like when they get to work? How do they get themselves ready for the day? Any of those kinds of questions that don't infringe on the HIPAA laws in your area are great, right? Like those will help you source out some of that information. And the less you talk, the more you listen, the more information that you can find out. So don't be afraid to take a chance on somebody that maybe doesn't have the exact qualifications that you feel like the position needs. Give them a chance to tell you, why they applied. And in turn, if you are the person applying and you're the applicant, go in prepared for your interview, right? So do some research on the company. Do some research on the position itself. There's a ton of information out there nowadays, right? Like we have so much more information at our fingertips than I ever had when I started in the workforce. You can get on Glassdoor and find out about the company. You can find out about their CEO, how previous employees have felt about it. A lot of information like that. And it prepares you going into it. If you're an internal candidate, you have an amazing position to know what's going on. You can walk into that interview prepared for, hey, here's what I see, and here are the things that I feel like I can make an impact in. Here's why I would be essential for this position. Maybe I don't have a master's, but I've got X, Y, and Z years that I'm able to bring to the table, and here's my experience. Here is, here are some examples of that. Having examples as an applicant is crucial. A lot of businesses have moved to that kind of interview style. They're going to ask you, give me an example of a time when you dealt with a difficult boss. Give me an example of a time when you had to resolve a conflict with a colleague. And maybe it's you're interviewing for your first job. So you can use sibling rivalry. You can use an issue in your family. You can use issues with your friends. If you really think through what they're asking and what kind of experience they're looking for, we encounter things every day in our everyday life that can be applied to working, to this interview process. And that one's big. I have always been big on hiring the right person for my team, because there's a lot of skills that you can teach. There's a lot of skills that you cannot teach. And those for us on our Opus feed, we do not have an Opus TikTok account, but I have a personal TikTok account that I have gone live on. And one of the wonderful ladies that I hired at a previous job just popped on there, and she made comment that that's how I interviewed her for the position I hired her for. And she did a fantastic job for me. So as you're hiring, sometimes stepping outside of the box is great, and not going for the perfect person on paper. I have seen a ton of resumes that are written really well, and when the applicant gets in there, they can't speak to them. They can't talk about their experiences. They can't talk about a favorite boss. They essentially don't have an opinion. And without an opinion, how do you form a great working relationship with the company you're starting with. If you don't know why you're applying somewhere, then, it doesn't do the person that so it doesn't do your interviewer any good. My biggest pet peeve probably ever, and I heard this from a CEO, years ago in my first real job, my first big girl job. He said, if you get to interviewing with me and you do not have questions, I have concerns about why you're here and why you're sitting in front of me and why you are interviewing for an upper management position. And it's something that's stuck with me. I'm big on, what questions do you have for me? If, as an interviewer, I ask an applicant, what questions do you have for me? And they're like, I don't have any. It raises some red flags. So even for an entry-level position, if I'm going to hire you, I want you to have essentially some skin in the game. What have you done? Are you just applying to get a paycheck? Because that's bad turnover right there for me. I'm looking at someone that just wants to get a paycheck, and that worries me, because how long are you going to stay? You're going to get swayed by another company that maybe is going to pay you 50 cents more an hour or $1 more an hour. Pay is going to sway you very quickly. I don't like to lose my team. So when I'm hiring, I am investing in and hiring people that I believe in, that I believe are going to help to elevate myself, elevate, whatever part of the business that I'm working in. These are the things that I'm looking for. So I'm looking for a person that's going to stay with me, and is going to be passionate and motivated, and really bring a different perspective to the team. I don't want to hire a bunch of people just like me. I don't want to hire all the same, the person that just comes in and does their job every day. I want to build a team that pushes each other and that will grow whatever business we're in. So that's kind of how, when I go in and I'm looking at, all the applicants that I interview, that's kind of one of the first things. If you don't ask smart questions or good questions, that worries me. Especially if I'm your hiring manager. So if I've told you, and you walk in, that I'm going to be the one hiring you, while there may be other people present in the interviews, I'm the one that makes ultimately the final decision, which is always good to know who makes the final decision. If I'm going to make the final decision, you should be asking me questions. If you're reporting directly to me, hey, what's your leadership style? Like, how do you give feedback? What does an exceeds expectation in this role look like? What do you feel like are the biggest challenges for this role? That was one, previous to Opus, that was the first thing I asked. There were some changes when I went through an interview. They had some changes with leadership and management. They were creating some new districts, and that was, as soon as I got a question for my hiring manager, that was the first thing I asked. Hey, what do you see as the biggest opportunity? What do you feel like is going to be the biggest struggle that I'm going to have to be aware of going into this position if I'm offered it? And that was kind of eye-opening for me, and allowed me to really assess if the company was a good fit for me. I've turned down positions because the culture in the company wasn't a culture I could get behind. And that's really a stickler. You really need to be aware as a hiring manager and as an applicant or potential candidate to be hired. What's that culture look like for you? How do you like to work? Are you somebody that works collectively? Are you someone that needs some space? I very much like some collaboration around things when I'm trying to source out an idea, and then I like to be given the opportunity to step into my own and really work through something. So Opus has been a great fit for me as I've gone through this, because there's I'm in a whole new world for me. I've got an amazing CEO and COO that allow me to come in here and take over the Water Cooler Wednesday and talk about the topics that I want. And so this one was an easy one. my direct manager checks in, and we kind of, have talked about it and, what the expectations are, and he's let me go. Now this month I did ask, hey, you got any ideas for me? Because I had a tough time thinking about it. I really like a theme. I wanted a theme for February, and people is my theme this month. So we are today talking about interviewing and hiring, for those of you that are just joining us. And having an idea of what I wanted coming into my interview for Opus was key. And so I know I'm giving you guys two sides, but we have to think about it. And as you think about that, what does, as a candidate, knowing the next steps, knowing what the expectations are, was something that really helped me as well. As the hiring manager is going through the process with you, are they signposting? Are they telling you what's going on, what to expect next? Who are you going to talk to next? What are some of the things that you can keep an eye out? That one, that can help that process go really smoothly. And then if you decide on that candidate, if we've already signposted through the interview process, onboarding is going to be really smooth because you've already built that trust. You've already built your brand with that candidate to know you're going to tell them what the process looks like. They're going to know who to go to and what to do as they're going through this with your organization. And, I think as a whole, knowing, or in my experience, right, as a whole, we do a poor job of this as hiring managers. Whether it's we get in the weeds or we just don't have a good system, we get a ton of applicants in and we're weeding through it and you don't hear back, or they don't hear back from you. You don't take the time to say, hey, we really appreciate you applying, but we're not going to consider you at this point for X, Y, or Z. Not giving that feedback to applicants really kind of hurts your brand. It hurts the company. It only takes one person, one bad experience, and they're going to tell 10 people. One good experience, and then they might tell one or two. But if you have a bad experience with a company going through, your application process and trying to get hired with them, it's going to hurt their reputation with you as well. So ensuring that you've got a good system in place. I've worked through a lot of systems and recently have found here at Opus, we use, the SharePoint system, and we're able to set that up so that we can track the candidates, and we can track them from the application process all the way through the onboarding process, and then all of that information stays there. Prior to Opus and using SharePoint, I had 4 or 5 different locations that, whether it was, I was finding people on Indeed, I was having them, they were applying straight to our website. I had applicants all over the place, and keeping those organized was really tough. And it makes it really hard when you're jumping from piece to piece. So really, we talked about this last week, streamlining where all your applicants come so that you can keep one document and track that. Have they been through the interview have they been screened? Have we looked at their resume? Have we decided, are they a good fit? Would we like to move them into an interview? Being able to track that. Knowing where they're going next is going to be key, right? Like, hey, I want to interview this person, or I think this person is a good fit if you're a recruiter. Being able to track where they go next. So who's going to interview them? Whether that's the hiring manager, whether that's the recruiter, whether it's HR, knowing that system and having that ironed out is really going to help this process move along and allow your candidate to feel confident in what you're doing as a business. So even for our smaller businesses, when you're looking to hire, that's something to think about. What does that process look like? How does the candidate flow from the time that they apply to the time that they get either, hey, you're hired, or, hey, sorry, we just don't feel like you're a good fit? What does that process look like, and what are we doing in that time? So being able to keep records of where they're at.